assistindo agora.
So,
bem-vindos.
Thank you very much for you that are here with us. We are going to do this talk in English, even if my English is not that good, but as we are being hosted by the Printed Matter Art Book Fair, we decided to open that conversation in English. So we are here in my place in São Paulo, Desapê. I usually work with books that are rare, out of print, and especially connected with the Brazilian reality. So concrete poetry, process poetry, marginalia, and things like that. In the Printed Matter site, you can find my catalogs, but we are also connected with artists, contemporary artists that are producing books nowadays. So we have this theme, this kind of label to this conversation, that is handmade books done nowadays by contemporary artists, and using not just books, editions, and using traditional methods of doing books. So this conversation will host also the artists, two artists, Renata Siqueira Bueno, that is doing her books are here. I will show you in a minute. Theodore Ereira-Guyer, that his books are here. I will show you. Filipa Valladares, that is a mediator. She will help us to present the books. And Miguel, that is from Anonymous Project. I shouldn't say his name. He's anonymous, forget his name. So here I have a virtual, it's not a virtual, this is a real table. And we will start our conversation, as I said before, with Renata's books. We have in this lounge two books. This is one, and it's Brasai and Outras Fotografias. And the other books is Eu com Manrei. Those books, they belong to a series that Renata started a long time ago, working with Cindy Sherman books, and she explained this process. The interesting thing and the traditional way of doing these books is that she uses her archive, her own archive, creating a kind of parallels with her photos, the analogical ones. Sometimes there is no parallel, nothing to talk about, but in most of the times you can see Renata's photos glued, insert here like a collage, and they have sometimes different measurements, different sizes. And she also, in this very traditional way of doing books, she also does something that's very interesting. She writes by hand the name of this new book that was done from a book that existed already. So this is one. You will see the photos with Filipa. She will show you in a better way. This is Man Ray books. Again, you have the introduction of this new title, and you have the photos again of Renata and Man Ray. So you can easily in this page recognize the work of Man Ray and the work of Renata, and the parallels that she creates with her own archive. So those books are books, not big ones, and they are unique. And from her books, we will talk about the books of Theodore. We are launching this one. The name is A Conversation, and he uses not photos, he uses etchings. And you will see in this very big book, a different size, that the etchings, that of course it's a traditional way to print. He prints books of 40 pages. This is a edition of 5 plus an artist proof that he did, and he is launching here with me. We met each other some years ago when he came to Desapê with this huge book that we'll talk about it, but this book is a little bit older. It's the first one that he introduced to me. And then we will talk with the project, the responsible person of the project from Pitões das Júnias. Now we are in different parts of the world. We are in Lisbon. You maybe are in New York or in other places. And Pitões das Júnias, maybe someone from there is watching us. They have a project. It's a kind also of a residence where they publish also magazines that are were already published. In this case, this one was published a long time ago. It's a magazine that was published in '54, and then the responsible of this project invites people, artists that can be connected with this place, the nature of this place, and create a new edition, doing a very handmade interventions, collages, draws in this old book. And he's also talking about land art, anonymous art, and also the contemporary art market, where you can see somewhere, I will try to find, that is about dirty money in contemporary art. So you'll find sometimes rubber stamps written dirty money in CA. CA is not California, it's contemporary art. This project also hosted artists, and this that can be named, not just anonymous one. And in this case, we have a project done with the support of Anonymous, and it's a kind of series of 41 postcards done by Renata, that is the author of the books that I showed before. Renata did this project in a place, Adam, that was going to be empty. And in this moment, she found this territory completely different from the one that we know and that we are used to go to. And she took those photos like in a way that we have a 360 degrees image. So she created also the cover. It's a very small production. It's 50 also, the edition. And she makes a rubber stamp, and here is by hand. Is by hand? Yes, I think so. I think so. Then to finish the conversation, we have another edition with the support and help of Anonymous Art Project, again in Pitões das Júnias, that hosted this time a friend and a person, an artist that goes there very often since a long time ago. That is Rolando Castellón. And Rolando did this work in a partnership with Renata. So this territory, this place in Portugal is a place that also creates new partnerships. In this case, we have a photo book where this part is by hand, this part is a film, glued, and it's a photo book. The number of this is a magazine, and the number of this magazine is the issue 45. So you will see by Filipa, it's more like a photo book, but the photo book was done in a territory, in a residence. So they stayed together, they eat together, they drink together. And I think this is a very incredible way to doing books. So now Filipa and Renata will talk about her work, Renata's work, and Filipa will take this conversation with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Greta. Thank you so much for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here with Desapê and with all of you. And it's a pleasure to be in a talk during Printed Matter Virtual Online Book Fair, which is the times we're living. So we have to keep dealing with our books. And it's not the first time that STET, or me as representative of STET, collaborates with Desapê, which is always a pleasure. So thank you. And so I'll be presenting a little bit of Renata's, a few of Renata's books. I met Renata in 2017 when she arrived in Lisbon. And then 1 year later, we did a show in a gallery called Diferença here, where she presented several artist books, photo books, and prints and drawings. And I'll pass the word to her so she can explain a little bit of the process of these photo books that we're going to see and the way she works. So I'm going to put on a video so you can see. So Renata, if you want to explain a little bit more, please.
Okay, thank you. Once by chance, I placed one of my photographs inside a book of Cindy Sherman from entitled Film Still Series. The one which the self-portraits with focus on social stereotypes of the female person. I noticed that it reverberates with the photo of the book, although it wasn't made with that purpose. After these first connections, I could not stop in looking in my collection for all the pictures that could be placed in the white pages of the book. And by placing side by side my pictures of women with the ones created by Cindy Sherman, an unusual connections was created. A transpositions of time and the space in which this woman could meet. A human gathering, one could say. This book was the first one. After that, I found new photographs whose works could bond with mine, such as Diane Arbus, Man Ray, Brassai, or Duane Michaels. It's this. Thank you.
Thank you, Renata. So these photo books that Renata is presenting, they are photography books that take a form of diptychs, where Renata appropriates already published books. And at the beginning, it was this Cindy Sherman books, as we are seeing now, with the entitled Still Films series. And she mixes her work from her personal archives and adding them on the left page that was blanket of the original book. And these analogic prints that go from portraits between the 80s and the beginning of the 21st century, that portray women, self-portraits and other women, in this case, in the specific book, enlighten and contrast with Cindy Sherman books, Cindy Sherman images, I'm sorry. So this book was made in 2012, and actually it's like 43 images, printed images there are from Renata in the book. And then it was shown in 2015 in a show in the Galeria Vermelho in São Paulo called Photos Tell Facts. So following these intricate games of mirrors, she chooses the photographs, the self-portraits and other portraits, that force us to question these female stereotypes, where the copy and the original are confused in the role of women and their bodies in the images exposed and called into a question. As Cindy Sherman multiplies herself in countless women from these cliches of American female poses of the 50s, 60s, and 70s, so does Renata with her own story and her own images. So maybe now we can go to one of the other we have the books that we are launching. So the other two books are connected. We can see all of these videos in the Desapê YouTube channel. And let's see. Let's go one. So this is the Braçai book, and it's in each book, there's always an intervention of drawing. We can see here that just as written on Lighten, the fotografias is handwritten as a drawing. So this always happens, the drawing mixes with the photography. So this process becomes of work that Renata is doing, creates this kind of crossing, the effect of crossing our images and their context with someone else's photos and their photos as well. And it works like these enormous crossing circles in the water, like when you throw a stone in the water and then all these circles start crossing themselves and it looks like it's never ending. So all these connections that can be made between two images start appearing, and page by page, we can see, we know whether the connection started, but we never know when it's going to end because they're all very varied kinds of images that she chooses and the relations that they have. So Braçai and other photos, in Braçai and other photos, we can see the connection with the city, with the city nights, with sometimes with interiors and exteriors, with the city life, also the nightlife, and in different eras and in different moments, and just setting this image side by side with their own work, Renata in a way forces the viewer to create a link, forces us to create a link between them. And she creates these connections that can be as powerful and as unexpected. So now we have to change to the video. Next book. So this next book is about membrane, and so we're all from a very old-fashioned technology, the books, that you only have to spread and open page by page. So there's always this technology thing in between. So, so the connections always created. There's always a kind of the choosing of the picture that is slightly deviates from the original, gaining a new meaning each time when it's placed next to the next one. So you can, although there are differences of time, of location, of attitude from her and all the other photographers, there also can be seen some similarities in the ambience, in the tension, in the light, in the pose, in different ways and in different eras. So it's very curious. So the spectator creates all these links, reinventing the images in a way, just like in cinema. In these sequences, Renata reviews her own personal history and her archive and its multiplicity of very personal images in contrast with very public ones that became the classical photographers' images through the 20th century. So they are very distinct and unconnected sometimes from their origin, these images, but when joined together, they reflect our look towards the image and make us provide some different encounters. So YouTube also has this kind of strange imagery. And in generating these bridges and oppositions, highlighting gestures or latent motions, she creates a strange and challenging dialogue. And talking about dialogue, we can pass through Theodore, that was going to talk to us about his conversation book.
Thanks, Filipa, and thank you, Rita from Desapê, for inviting me in this conversation and being part of kind of printed matter. Always excited to be part of anything that celebrates books, especially artist books. So I first met Rita in Sao Paulo in Brazil in 2017, when through kind of various bits of serendipity and luck, I was introduced to her and her collection in Edifício Copan. and she was kind enough to come and have a look at some of my work. And then last year, before all this chaos had begun in February, I was in Sao Paulo again for a residency and brought her a new artist book that I'd been making. And this, again, had kind of manifested over a kind of few years. The book that you can see on our screens now, A Conversation. And it was a series of 40 different images in which I was using, or just interested in, using the kind of beautiful aspect of a double page spread in a book, and how they kind of oppose each other, how they look at each other, how they kind of, the left page looks to the right and vice versa. And so I took a book, a bit like Renata in her own practice was taking kind of pre-existing books and as a kind of source material, and kind of as a beginning, I took a book called Sculptures of the World, a history that was published in the UK in the 60s. It was an old library book from Tower Hamlets municipality in London. And I was interested in kind of using this as a limited resource in which to kind of get my images from. And so I selected all the photographs in the book that I decided to display the sculptures in profile. And again, simply drew these onto aluminium etching plates, and with the idea of getting the double page spread for each person to kind of be facing each other as if they were in dialogue, as if they were in conversation. And one of the things I kind of wanted to get in this, or was interested in, there was no kind of direct objective necessarily, but one of the things I was interested in working as a kind of book format is the idea of a book as a limit, that there was a kind of finite end to it, but also that wonderful aspect of not knowing what's inside or in between its covers until it's opened. So as soon as the book's closed, between its kind of bluish grey, kind of anonymous confines, and then opened up into kind of, I was hoping, an object dense with colour, textures, mark making, source material, historicity. But then also, I had actually kind of completed this book of, as Rita said at the beginning, an edition of 5 with an artist proof. I realized that actually what needed to be done is this idea of making a volume 2 or maybe a volume 3, and it being a more continual process, let's say. So if this was about the pages, a conversation was about the pages facing each other in dialogue, maybe in greeting in a friendly manner. The first book that I introduced to Rita was called Memory and Distance, what kind of represented my more cartographical works. And we're going to go and see. Here you go. So you can see it was made a year before. And again, no color here. It's very different in just that kind of simple aspect. But represented some cartographical works that I've been making for several years prior to this, in which I took kind of maps that I found historically significant from the kind of 1500s, 1600s, etc., particularly in the European age of exploration and colonization, and removed those territories just to leave the cartographic lines. And I became interested in several kind of factors here, but one was the idea that once you remove those territories, what's left was those cartographic lines, and how that almost began to map or become a map of its own process of production, its own medium, its own, a mapping of its manifesting itself as an artist's book. So again, looking at other source material here as books, as maps, in order to produce another book in this very moment. And so again, the book is an idea of how it can demarcate space. So here the pages, instead of in a conversation and dialogue, kind of split up the image. And I was interested in here how we're always kind of shown a segment and never a whole. It's the kind of, again, the process of turning the pages creates a complete experience instead of one instantaneous moment of revelation. And I think what you can see here with Rita in the screen here is kind of its size. So obviously one of the great things about when working between places is obviously some work can travel and some can't. And obviously one of the reasons I brought these books to Rita in Sao Paulo from Europe, from Lisbon and London, where my practice is normally based, was their ability to travel. And it's that kind of exciting thing for me, is a book, you know, why not work in digital media? And it's obviously there's an interest in what the physical can do. And one of the things that I felt that I could achieve, hopefully, with the artist book is the idea of creating a location in itself. And you come to the book and you have to kind of physically interact with it. That experience isn't dictated to you, or hopefully not. And I think, even though I've had the fortuitous luck of being able to speak in English, I will leave it at that and pass over back to you. Thank you.
Okay. So maybe we can see Rita with the book, which is quite immense. Rita, you have the microphone off.
Yes, so the book, Memory and Distance, is this huge book. When I have to touch it, of course I have to be with gloves, and it makes a mess on my table because it's just almost the size of the table. It takes half of the table to show it, and it's very interesting. As he said, as Theodore said, it's a kind of an experience, no? Of course, we are here in a territory. Even if we are not talking about a place, it's a non-place. And it's funny to see that there are coincidences here, because we here, Desapê, it's a kind of a gallery, a non-gallery. And we are here with this non-place. And we were before with the book, A Conversation, that it's a kind of Babel, where we have distant periods of representation of the human being, sculptures, no, that he found in that book, that are from ancient periods, that are talking. When you turn the page, you'll see another kind of conversation, another background, completely different. So it's like it's a non-talk too. And then to explore this kind of subject, we have this place that it's almost unplace, and no territory, no place, that is Pitões das Unhas in Portugal. That is a place where our friend from Anonymous Art Project runs and created this kind of residence where artists meet each other. They are in contact for a period in this place that is very known by him in the north of Portugal. He will talk with us about that. And then there they create those editions in an anonymous way. So we have a lot of artists contributing here. This is the second number. And the funny thing is that the first number was done with a magazine that was a pre-existent magazine. As Theodore took his book, no, he did with a pre-existent book, encyclopedia, and Renata with a pre-existent book of Cindy Sherman, Man Ray. Here in Anonymous Art Project, they work with a pre-existent magazine that was on the kiosks. This one is very interesting. It's from 55, I think I show it you. And then he invites people, artists, but unknown artists, to develop their work inspired by that territory. So it's something done by hand. We have also criticism here. We have like an editorial. Here we have an homage to China and also a handmade silhouette, no? Like another kind of unknown artists that are working in sewing. So this is the one that the name original one was Broteria, and he with the anonymous rubber stamp, you can see he covers, an artist did that. We don't know which artist. And the name now is Eteria. So this is a project that are launching this magazine now with us. The project supported also this other photo book done by a very famous artist that collaborates with Anonymous Art Project, that is Rolando Castellón. And he did this with Renata Siqueira Bueno. This photo book is not a very, he's not using a lot of ancient or traditional methods, but we have here glued a film, and this is the cover. It's 200 copies, and this is the 45 issue of a long-term magazine, doing always with Rolando and another artist that he invites to work with him. And in this case, we have Renata working with Rolando, and Renata also did in a territory that is near of Pitões das Júnias, this project of postcards. We have here 41 postcards. I can show you them in this space because they are of course too big, and they create like a 30-60 degrees image. Here in the cover is a rubber stamp. Always we are talking about ancient methods, a small edition. And maybe the creator of this project, the Anonymous Project, even if he wants to be anonymous, maybe he will talk here with us and Filipa. So let's introduce the project.
Thank you, Rita. Thank you for inviting us, such a young project, to be with you. And as you told, Anonymous Art Project began as a land art project. And the land art project stands on a natural park in the north of Portugal, in a very old village that has a little monastery from the year 1129, so as older than our nationality. And in such a distant place, we decided to build a land art project. And being there, it makes sense to be anonymous, just also because there are a lot of stones that stay there for a million years, and our works will be beside these stones, and we don't want to create a lot of confusion, so we stay low profile and we stay anonymous. And as being anonymous today, it's a kind of paradox, because now everybody signs and it's correct. We decided to do a little essay about being anonymous today. So we invited a few writers to write about being anonymous today in contemporary art, and then in order to publish their essays anonymously, we took as a vehicle well-known Portuguese magazine that paradoxically is a socialite magazine, and we transformed that magazine called Cristina in our magazine. In the handmade process, we glue our text and we do our interventions, and we transform this Cristina magazine in our number 0 magazine, because it's a pre-published, it's previously of our land art project. So this year you can see like a pop-up work. As Rita said, we invited several artists to do interventions on this well-known magazine and transform. Here is a reference to brutal art. I think in French is art brut. In English, it's art made by people that have no degrees. So, and they don't sign, usually they don't sign art. We do a kind of association with them, with people that usually don't sign their works. Also, as Rita said, we have some reference to sewing people that work with clothes. Here we have a reference to the beginnings of land art. This is a photo of the year 1952. As you can see, all the people that were in the magazine, we put them anonymously, using face masks in this case. All this is made by hand. And this magazine has an edition of 150 issues. Also, we made a musical proposition, also asking musicians to be anonymous. And here you can see our CD, our musical proposition. That is a mix of modern music to natural sounds. Here also reference to art brut and sewing people. And this year, we made the magazine like a photo book of the works that we made last year. And as this year is a special here, we put on the cover a work that has like a preview of the times that we are living now. And this work reminds us the corona that we are living today. Here, it's a kind of work that we made in our land camp, that we also move some natural stones in order to people be aware, and people can ask themselves if these stones were naturally positioned in this position, of if someone moves. Also, here is a reference of our subliminar term, that is dirty money in contemporary art. And as you can see, the land art works are in a very high village and with a beautiful and huge views. So the idea, as I told you, is to do a work being anonymously, and we used a pre-existing magazine called Bruteria. All the photos you can see are works made in our land art camp. Here is a reference to child work that also is anonymous. And a reference to rural views. And here, at last, a reference at the beginning to our actual time where the virus pandemic takes a place.
Okay, so now maybe we can go to talk a little bit about Cenizas, your project, one of the projects that Anonymous has been published.
Anonymous Art Project benefits that have a major curator called Rolando Castellón. Rolando Castellón, it's an artist from Nicaragua, but it's also a well-known curator that began his career in 1970 in MoMA, San Francisco MoMA in the United States. And in 1979, he began a little publication called Cenizas, Ashes, and he invited artists to collaborate with him and do the magazine. Rolando offered us the possibility to do an issue, the 45 issue, and we invited one of artists that usually works with us, Renata Siqueira Bueno, to do the magazine. So it's also a little photo book that has references with our project, Anonymous Art Project, and also reference of Renata neighborhood.
So I'm showing some of the old Cenizas publishing that are in the collection.
Yes, as I told you, it's a magazine that runs for more than 40 years. And all these little magazines have also a lot of manual work and handmade items put it inside. Rolando was also the founder of a well-known gallery in San Francisco called the Race Gallery that still runs. That was the first Latino America gallery in the west coast of the United States. Rita is showing the actual Cenizas, and the Cenizas refers specially to works that we have done on our first meeting of Anonymous Art projects that were ephemeras, projects that don't stand, because also during a week we made a meeting and the artists produced some works that will not stand for a long time. And these works were the ones that Renata photographed and worked and presented in this magazine.
So we launched Cenizas at STET in November 2011. And in a way, it gathers images that Renata collected from Portugal since the last few years that she's been here, from Lisbon to Cascais to Pitões das Júnias. And there's even there's a connection with landscape and also with the urban views. And there's a little detail that maybe Rickard can show us. A little play that it's done in the Pitões landscape. I mean the rocket. Okay, so maybe now we can go to another project from Anonymous, which is Paradela.
Paradela is it's a river dam near Pitões that was made empty 2 years ago to do some repairs, and it was like Mars, like the Voyager that we saw last week, the lands being eroded by water during dozens of years, present us like another planet. So Renata took register all the 360 degrees of the view, and made this set of postcards that work like a linear puzzle. You can put it together. Here you can see Renata inside the dam with a few water, making the set of photographs, and you can see that it looks like another planet.
Actually, this is still on exhibition right now in Porto, in the north of Portugal. And as you can see, the images were set on the wall. These are the images themselves. I don't think they are the postcards, but with the postcards, you can see the 360 images, 360 degrees of this place. So we're going to show a little video that shows all the
yes,
images.
Renata is actually showing her work at Adorna, a gallery that took only photograph in Porto. And the show began in the month of November during the Image Month on Porto, and still runs. If anyone would like to attempt it, just look for Adorna Gallery, Porto.
I'm gonna try to show the video, but let's see, I'm not sure how it's gonna be. So there's sound in it. So.
And here is Renata with the 44 postcards.
Seem to have a technical problem to get out of there. Let's see. Okay, so actually we've seen the box that Rita was showing. So it's a box with 41 postcards with the panorama of the 360 degrees of the dam that becomes a little bit also a kind of a connection with the work of Theodore in a way, because it's this kind of the idea of the map that of a place that doesn't exist. And then here is a very specific place, but actually it's also a virtual place because it's a dam that it's empty. So you can never see that kind of landscape that looks like the moon or Mars. And in this specific moment, because they're doing a reconstruction of a part of the space, Renata was able to go inside and get these images of a kind of a virtual space. And it's also a project that reflects a little bit on memory, the spatial memory of this phenomenon we have between space and time that it brings, because it's a space that normally you cannot use, you cannot see. So it's a moment that gives you this specific view of that situation. I don't know if you want to show some more editions, or maybe is there any questions in the YouTube? Do we have any information on that online?
Mariana, we have some questions. I don't know. I just want to thank you very much. We will see here if we have some questions, but I think that we had a very good public hearing us with us. We had 18 person with us, and it's a success. We are starting to broadcast ourselves. It is very new for us. So what is easy for us is to be in person, showing books, touching books, and it's completely different. It's another experience, being in a fair or being in a virtual, but it's what we have nowadays. So I was having fun here showing you the books and also doing this kind of scale from Theodore books, the biggest one, then to Broteria, then to Renata, then to Paradela, and Cenizas and Paradela. So here are the books that we just launched here in this virtual event, and maybe the questions that we have, we are going to show this conversation also in YouTube. It will be there for a period, for a while. And I don't know if Mariana can help us with some questions that we have. I have to read those questions. Well, the people are thanking us. Most of the people are thanking us, and now we have 14 people watching us, so maybe I don't see any question. If someone wants to do a question, live question.
We must have answered it all.
Or if we want to talk among us.
Well, I would say that these projects have, in the moment that we are doing a book fair online, they have this freshness of coming back to the paper. And it's very interesting to see, Rita, they are showing the books by hand and not by digital, as I was showing. So it's like being in your living room, right? There's a bed, there's a room. So I think this is very interesting because we are used to, I've seen several book fairs now online, and they're all interesting, but they're all kind of cold. So it's different that we can see you handling the books and showing people the books, and this idea that the video talk can gives you this and puts you online on live. Although I have to say, Printed Matter has this great wall where you can draw live there, and I find this really incredible. And all the books that you can draw, you would never have time to see all the books that you are seeing online right now, because if you go to PS1, it would be so many things at the same time, it would be too much. But it's an incredible effort. And well, coming back to the handmade thing of this project, that as Theodore, as much as Renata and Anonymous are keeping up with the idea that you can still do handmade things. Of course, they imply time, they imply dedication, and then also imply that you cannot do a line of 1,000, an edition of 1,000. So maybe one of you wants to talk a little bit about this production methods, why is it important to keep up this structure, and maybe in the case of Anonymous, the idea that the economical question that comes to it also in the outflows.
So we have a question here, and
okay.
It is the curate. It's where the shots of Renata done in one day. I guess no.
Se as suas fotografias foram feitas num dia.
Único dia, I guess no.
Oh, I think they were done throughout life.
No.
Tem que ligar o microfone, Renata.
The Paradela set was made in one day, one morning, but all the work done with Bruteria was made during several months, I can say.
Oh, it's funny because one of the questions I've seen now is someone is asking if the place, because I said it was not a real place, and they're saying, but it exists or not. Yes, it exists, but you can never see it because it's the end of a dam. So it's always filled with water. You can never see it. And in this summer, they were doing a construction there, so they had to empty the dam. So it's like a virtual place. You can never go inside and see that. Yeah, they have to be underwater. So the place exists, but it's virtually never seen. So yes, and of course, those projects were made in specific timings. And Cenizas was made like what, through a year? Ao longo de ano, Renata, que fez as imagens do Cenizas, está com o microfone desligado.
Não, um ano que eu estou em Portugal, o primeiro ano que eu cheguei em Portugal. Ouviu?
Mhm.
So it is, you did it in the first year that you arrived in Portugal.
Mhm.
So I think it's funny to have this meeting here because it's a kind of also a very homemade experience.
We're literally all home.
Yes, it's something that we are at home and we talk and we see books, and I am the privileged one that can touch them. But you can order them, and if you order them, you can touch them. So in the site, you can see prices and you can see other questions like the real size of them and whatever. So we can talk again. We have a chat, we have an email, and the artists also, and Filipa and Miguel, we are all in Instagram. So maybe now I can say goodbye to you. We are here since 4 o'clock. And it was
Thank
really
you,
nice.
Rita.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
And
Thank
Filipa
you,
for
Renata.
Enjoy the rest of the fair.
You were super kind accepting this very homemade gallery invitation. Thank you so much.
have a nice
Beijinhos
weekend.
para São Paulo.
Bye. Ciao.
Beijinhos
Bye.
para Nova York.
Thank you.
Enjoy the fair.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Tchau.